The bustling aisles of an Atlanta supermarket set the stage for Kamala and Jack's unexpected meeting. Kamala, a hardworking black woman with a generous spirit, navigated the produce section, carefully selecting fresh fruits for her family. Her practiced eyes scanned the apples and oranges, looking for the best deals without compromising on quality. A few feet away, Jack stood at the checkout, his face etched with frustration and embarrassment. He fumbled with his wallet, searching for a way to pay for his groceries. His nervousness was palpable, drawing curious glances from other shoppers. Kamala noticed Jack's predicament. Without hesitation, she approached him, offering to cover his bill. "Excuse me, sir. It looks like you're having some trouble. Would you like me to help with your groceries?" Her voice was kind but matter-of-fact. Jack looked up, surprised by the unexpected offer. His initial instinct was to refuse, but seeing Kamala's sincere expression, he nodded gratefully. "That's very kind of you. I seem to have misplaced my credit card," he admitted, a mix of relief and shame in his voice. As Kamala paid for both their groceries, Jack's tension visibly eased. He offered a genuine smile, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done without your help." While waiting for the change, Kamala struck up a conversation. "I'm Kamala, by the way. Are you new to the area? I don't think I've seen you around before." Jack's response was vague but intriguing. "I'm Jack. I've been in Atlanta for a while, but I'm still getting used to certain parts of the city." His evasiveness piqued Kamala's curiosity. As they left the store, Kamala found herself drawn to Jack's mysterious aura. She asked about his work and life in Atlanta, but Jack's answers remained elusive. He deflected her questions with charm, turning the conversation back to her. This dance of inquiry and evasion created an atmosphere of mutual intrigue, laying the foundation for what would become a complex and transformative relationship. Following their chance encounter at the supermarket, Kamala and Jack found themselves at a nearby cafe, the aroma of fresh coffee filling the air. They sat across from each other at a small table, their grocery bags tucked neatly under their seats. Kamala, feeling more at ease, began to open up about her life. "I've been working 2 jobs to support my family," she explained, her voice steady but tinged with determination. "It's not easy, but I'm saving up to start my own business someday. I want to open a bakery that specializes in recipes from my grandmother." Jack listened intently, his eyes focused on Kamala. He nodded, encouraging her to continue. As she spoke about her struggles and aspirations, Jack found himself drawn to her resilience and ambition. When Kamala finished, Jack took a deep breath before sharing his own story. "I come from a family with expectations," he said, choosing his words carefully. "In the business world I work in, everyone expects perfection. It's exhausting, always feeling like you have to be someone you're not." Kamala leaned forward, intrigued by this glimpse into Jack's world. "That sounds challenging. How do you cope with that pressure?" Jack's lips quirked into a half-smile. "Honestly, I'm not sure I do. That's partly why I've been exploring different parts of the city. I'm trying to find something real." As they continued to talk, the conversation flowed naturally. They discovered shared interests in cooking and community service. Laughter punctuated their discussion, breaking the initial tension and creating a warm, comfortable atmosphere. Hours passed unnoticed. When Jack glanced at his watch, he was surprised to see how late it had become. "I can't believe we've been talking for so long," he said, a note of regret in his voice at the thought of ending their conversation. Kamala nodded in agreement, equally surprised by how quickly time had flown. As they prepared to leave, Jack hesitated for a moment before asking, "Would you like to meet again sometime? Maybe we could explore one of those community projects you mentioned." Kamala smiled, her eyes bright with interest. "I'd like that," she replied, feeling a spark of excitement at the prospect of seeing Jack again. As they parted ways outside the cafe, both Kamala and Jack felt the stirrings of a connection that went beyond their initial encounter. They had shared parts of themselves rarely revealed to others, creating a foundation for something potentially profound. In the weeks following their cafe meeting, Kamala and Jack began to see each other regularly. Their encounters were simple yet meaningful, often revolving around everyday activities that allowed them to deepen their connection. One sunny afternoon, Jack took Kamala to a local park. As they strolled along a tree-lined path, Jack opened up about his fears. "Sometimes I worry that I'm not living up to my potential," he confessed, his voice low. "There's so much pressure to succeed, but I'm not sure if the success I'm chasing is what I really want." Kamala listened attentively, then shared her own concerns. "I understand that feeling. I often wonder if my dreams of owning a bakery are too ambitious. What if I fail?" Their conversation flowed easily, punctuated by moments of comfortable silence. As they sat on a bench overlooking a small pond, Jack reached for Kamala's hand, a gesture that felt both natural and exhilarating. However, as their relationship blossomed, complications began to arise. Jack's friend Tom noticed changes in Jack's behavior and grew concerned. After a business meeting, Tom confronted Jack. "You've been distracted lately," he observed. "Is everything okay?" Jack tried to brush off Tom's concerns, but his friend persisted. "I've noticed you've been spending a lot of time in parts of town you usually avoid. What's going on, Jack?" Meanwhile, Kamala was experiencing her own doubts. Despite the growing intimacy between her and Jack, she couldn't shake the feeling that he was holding something back. His vague answers about his work and background began to trouble her. These concerns came to a head when Kamala overheard a snippet of conversation between Jack and Tom at a local coffee shop. Tom's words, "Jack, you can't keep living this double life," sent a chill through her. Kamala found herself questioning everything she thought she knew about Jack. Was he really who he claimed to be? The uncertainty began to cast a shadow over their budding romance. As both Jack and Kamala grappled with their internal conflicts, the foundation of trust they had built began to show cracks. Jack felt torn between his growing feelings for Kamala and the pressure to maintain his public image, while Kamala struggled with her instincts to trust Jack and her fear of being deceived. Jack, feeling the weight of his secret and the growing distance between him and Kamala, decided to take a bold step. He made reservations at one of Atlanta's most exclusive restaurants, hoping to create a memorable evening where he could finally reveal his true identity. As they arrived at the restaurant, Kamala's eyes widened at the opulent surroundings. Crystal chandeliers hung from high ceilings, and impeccably dressed waiters glided between tables covered in crisp white linens. Jack guided her to their table, his hand lightly touching her back. "This place is impressive," Kamala said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. She glanced down at her simple dress, feeling out of place among the other diners in their designer outfits. Jack noticed her discomfort and immediately regretted his choice of venue. He had wanted to impress her, but now he realized this environment only highlighted the disparity between their worlds. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I thought this would be special, but I can see you're not comfortable here." Kamala tried to smile, but her unease was evident. "It's fine, Jack. It's just not what I'm used to. How did you even get a reservation here?" Jack took a deep breath, knowing the moment of truth had arrived. "Kamala, there's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice low and serious. "I haven't been entirely honest about who I am." Kamala's heart raced as she braced herself for what was to come. Jack continued, "I'm not just a regular guy working in tech. The truth is, I'm the CEO of Tech Innovate. I guess you could say I'm a technology magnate." The revelation hung in the air between them. Kamala sat in stunned silence, her mind reeling as she tried to process this information. Everything suddenly made sense: Jack's evasiveness about his work, his knowledge of high-end restaurants, the overheard conversation with Tom. "Why didn't you tell me?" Kamala finally asked, her voice a mix of hurt and confusion. Jack leaned forward, his eyes pleading. "I wanted you to know me for who I really am, not for my money or status. With you, I felt like I could just be myself." As the weight of Jack's revelations settled over them, both realized that their relationship had reached a critical juncture. The truth was out, but its impact on their future remained uncertain. The revelation of Jack's true identity hit Kamala like a tidal wave. Her mind raced, trying to reconcile the man she thought she knew with this new information. "A technology magnate?" she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't understand. Why all the secrecy?" Jack reached across the table, attempting to take her hand, but Kamala pulled away. "I never meant to deceive you," he said, his voice laced with urgency. I've been living under constant scrutiny for so long. With you, I found a chance to be genuine, to be valued for who I am, not what I own." Kamala shook her head, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But you weren't being genuine, Jack. You were hiding a huge part of your life from me. How can I trust anything you've said?" The hurt in Kamala's voice cut through Jack like a knife. He realized that his attempt to protect their budding relationship had backfired spectacularly. "Kamala, please. Everything I've shared with you about my feelings, my fears, my hopes, that was all real." But Kamala had heard enough. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I need some time to think," she said, her voice trembling. It's too much." Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving Jack alone at the table. Jack sat there, devastated. He had imagined this evening going so differently. Now, he feared he had lost Kamala for good. In the days that followed, Jack found himself torn between two worlds. His corporate responsibilities demanded his attention, but his thoughts constantly drifted to Kamala. He tried calling and texting, but his messages went unanswered. Meanwhile, Kamala grappled with her own emotional turmoil. She had opened her heart to Jack, believing him to be a kindred spirit struggling to make ends meet. Now, she questioned every interaction they'd had. Was his interest in her genuine, or was she just a novelty to him, a brief escape from his privileged life? As the days turned into weeks, both Jack and Kamala found themselves at a crossroads. Jack knew he needed to prove that his feelings for Kamala were real, that he was more than just his wealth and status. Kamala, on the other hand, had to decide if she could trust Jack again, if the connection they had formed was strong enough to overcome this betrayal. Determined to prove his sincerity to Kamala, Jack decided to take action. He began by visiting her neighborhood, not as a wealthy CEO, but as someone genuinely interested in understanding and contributing to her community. Jack learned about a local project to renovate a rundown school in Kamala's area. Without hesitation, he volunteered his time and resources, careful not to flaunt his wealth or status. He showed up in work clothes, ready to paint walls, fix desks, and do whatever was needed. As Jack immersed himself in the renovation work, he found a sense of purpose he had been missing in his corporate life. He chatted with local volunteers, listened to their stories, and gained a new perspective on the challenges faced by the community. Unbeknownst to Jack, Kamala had heard about his involvement in the school project. Curious and somewhat skeptical, she decided to observe from a distance. She watched as Jack worked tirelessly alongside other volunteers, his designer suits replaced by paint-stained jeans and a t-shirt. Kamala was surprised to see Jack so at ease in this environment, far removed from the world of boardrooms and tech innovations. She noticed how he listened attentively to the concerns of parents and teachers, offering solutions without throwing money at the problems. As days passed, Kamala found herself reconsidering her initial reaction to Jack's revelation. She began to see glimpses of the man she had fallen for, kind, thoughtful, and genuinely interested in making a difference. One afternoon, as Jack was helping to install new bookshelves in the school library, he spotted Kamala watching from the doorway. Their eyes met, and for a moment, neither spoke. Then Jack approached her, his hands dirty from work, but his eyes clear and honest. "Kamala," he said, his voice soft but firm, "I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. But this, being here, helping out, this is the real me. The me I've always wanted to be, but never had the courage to embrace fully." Kamala studied him for a moment before responding. "I can see that," she admitted. "But Jack, there's still so much I don't understand about your world, about why you felt you had to hide who you were." Jack nodded, understanding her hesitation. "You're right. There's a lot we need to talk about. Would you be willing to give me a chance to explain everything? No more secrets, I promise." Kamala paused, then nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "I'm willing to listen." Kamala's agreement to hear Jack out marked a turning point in their relationship. They agreed to meet at the school project site, a neutral ground that represented Jack's efforts to bridge the gap between their worlds. As they walked through the half-renovated school corridors, Jack began to open up about his life. "I've always felt trapped by expectations," he explained, his voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. "My family, the board, the media. They all wanted me to be this perfect tech mogul. I lost myself trying to be what everyone else wanted. Kamala listened intently, her initial skepticism softening as she heard the sincerity in Jack's words. They paused in a classroom where they had both volunteered, the freshly painted walls a testament to their shared efforts. When I met you, Jack continued, I saw a chance to be myself without the weight of my name or wealth. I know now that hiding the truth was wrong, but my feelings for you were always real. Kamala nodded, processing his words. I understand why you did it, she said slowly. But relationships need trust, Jack. How can we build something real if we're not honest with each other? Jack's response was immediate and heartfelt. You're absolutely right. From now on, complete honesty. No more secrets, no more hiding. I want you to know all of me, including the parts I'm not proud of. As they continued to talk, Kamala found herself drawn back to the connection they had initially formed. She saw Jack's genuine desire to make amends and his commitment to the community project. I've been thinking, Jack said, a hint of nervousness in his voice. I want to use my resources to make a real difference here. Not just this school, but other projects in the community. Would you consider helping me? Your insight would be invaluable. Kamala was taken aback by the offer. It was a chance to make a significant impact on her community, something she had always dreamed of. But it also meant further entanglement with Jack's world. After a moment of reflection, Kamala spoke. I'd like that, she said cautiously. But let's take it slow. We still have a lot to learn about each other. Jack's face lit up with hope. Absolutely, he agreed. We'll take it one day at a time. As they left the school together, both felt a renewed sense of possibility. The path ahead was uncertain, but they were both committed to navigating it together with honesty and understanding as their guides. As Jack and Kamala began to rebuild their relationship, external pressures started to mount. Tom, Jack's longtime friend and business associate, grew increasingly concerned about Jack's involvement in the community projects and his relationship with Kamala. One evening, after a tense board meeting, Tom cornered Jack in his office. Jack, we need to talk, he said, his voice stern. Your recent behavior is raising eyebrows. The board is questioning your commitment to the company. Jack bristled at Tom's words. My commitment? I've given everything to this company for years. Can't I have a personal life? Tom shook his head, frustration evident in his expression. It's not just about having a personal life, Jack. It's about who you're choosing to associate with. Kamala is, well, she's not from our world. This relationship could damage your public image, not to mention the company's reputation. Jack felt a surge of anger at Tom's implications. Kamala is intelligent, kind, and has given me a new perspective on life. How dare you suggest she's not good enough? I'm not saying that, Tom backpedaled, but you need to think about the bigger picture. Maybe it's time to end this little experiment and focus on what really matters. Jack's response was cold. What really matters is my happiness, Tom. And right now, that includes Kamala and the work we're doing in her community. As Tom left, Jack slumped in his chair, the weight of conflicting responsibilities bearing down on him. He knew he couldn't ignore his duties to the company, but the thought of giving up Kamala and the fulfillment he'd found in community work was unbearable. Meanwhile, Kamala was facing her own set of doubts. Despite Jack's efforts to integrate into her world, she couldn't help but notice the stark differences in their lives. When Jack showed up to a community meeting in a luxury car, she saw the sideways glances and heard the whispers from her neighbors. Later that week, during a quiet moment together, Kamala voiced her concerns. Jack, are you sure this is what you want? Your world and mine, they're so different. I'm worried you'll wake up one day and realize this isn't the life you're meant for. Jack reached for her hand, his eyes sincere. Kamala, being with you, doing this work, it's the most real thing I've ever experienced. But I won't lie, it's not easy balancing everything. As they sat in silence, both Jack and Kamala felt the pressure of their circumstances weighing heavily upon them. They were at a crossroads, and the path forward was far from clear. Faced with mounting pressure from all sides, Jack realized he needed to make a definitive choice about his future. He spent sleepless nights weighing his options, torn between the corporate world he'd always known and the new, more fulfilling life he discovered with Kamala. After much soul-searching, Jack decided to arrange a meeting with Kamala. He chose a quiet park bench where they'd shared many conversations, hoping the familiar setting would ease the tension of the moment. As Kamala approached, Jack stood, his face a mixture of nervousness and determination. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing for her to sit. Once seated, Jack took a deep breath and began. "Kamala, these past few months have been the most genuine and fulfilling of my life. Being with you, working in the community, it's shown me what really matters." Kamala listened intently, her heart racing as she sensed the weight of Jack's words. "I've made a decision," Jack continued, his voice steady. "I'm stepping down as CEO of my company. I want to focus on our community projects full-time, to use my resources and knowledge to make a real difference." Kamala's eyes widened in surprise. "Jack, that's a huge decision. Are you sure? Your company is your life's work." Jack nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "It was. But now, I want to build something new with you, if you'll have me." Kamala sat in stunned silence for a moment, processing Jack's words. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. "Jack, I'm touched by your commitment, but I need you to be sure. This is a massive change. What if you regret it?" Jack reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "The only thing I'd regret is not taking this chance. I love you, Kamala. I want to build a life that combines your world and mine." Kamala felt tears welling up in her eyes. She was moved by Jack's gesture, but still harbored doubts. "I love you too, Jack. But this is all happening so fast. Can we really make this work?" Jack nodded, understanding her hesitation. "We can take it slow. I'm not expecting everything to change overnight, but I want you to know I'm all in. Whatever challenges come our way, we'll face them together." As they sat on the park bench, hands intertwined, both Jack and Kamala knew they were on the brink of a new chapter in their lives. The path ahead was uncertain, but they were ready to face it side by side. As Kamala grappled with the implications of Jack's decision, her phone rang unexpectedly. Seeing it was her mother, she excused herself to answer. "Mom, is everything okay?" Her mother's voice came through, filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Kamala, honey, there's something I need to tell you about Jack's family." Kamala's heart raced. "What do you mean? How do you know about Jack's family?" Her mother took a deep breath before continuing. "I've known Jack's family for years, dear. His mother and I were college roommates. I've always known who he really was." The revelation hit Kamala like a thunderbolt. She struggled to find words as her mother continued. "I never said anything because I wanted you two to find your own way. But now, with everything that's happening, I think it's time you knew the truth." Kamala's mind reeled. "But why didn't you tell me? Why didn't they say anything?" Her mother's voice softened. "We all agreed it was best to let you and Jack forge your own path. Love doesn't care about backgrounds or bank accounts, Kamala. What matters is the connection you've built." As the conversation ended, Kamala turned back to Jack, who was watching her with concern. "Jack," she said, her voice trembling, "did you know our families were connected?" Jack's confused expression answered her question. "What? No, I had no idea. What are you talking about?" Kamala quickly relayed her mother's revelation. As understanding dawned on Jack's face, a mix of emotions played across his features: surprise, relief, and finally, joy. "So all this time," Jack said, a hint of wonder in his voice, "we were connected in ways we didn't even know." Kamala nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. "It seems the universe had plans for us all along." This unexpected twist put everything into a new perspective for both of them. The imagined barriers between their worlds suddenly seemed less insurmountable. Motivated by this revelation, Kamala made a decision. "Jack," she said, her voice firm, "I want to give us a real chance. No more doubts, no more hesitations. Let's build something meaningful together, combining both our worlds." Jack's face lit up with hope and happiness. He stood, pulling Kamala into a tight embrace. "Together," he agreed, his voice filled with emotion. As they stood in the park, holding each other, both Jack and Kamala felt a sense of rightness settle over them. The path ahead would still have its challenges, but now they faced it with renewed confidence, knowing that their connection was deeper and more meant to be than they had ever imagined.